How's it going, everybody? This has been a hotly requested video talking about the Dark Promotion credit system with the additions of Apocalypse, soon to be Black Cat, Nova, and Juggernaut zombies. So we're going to break down the priority in this video. I'm going to be joined by my friend Dead, who is a work captain with Onslaught and one of the creative heads that helps us make counters, and somebody whose opinion I trust very much when it comes to Marvel Strike Force. But before we do that, a word from our sponsors, Dungeon Hunter 6. I'd like to give a huge thanks to sponsor today's video, Dungeon Hunter 6. That's right, the hugely successful Dungeon Hunter series is back with the newest installment, Dungeon Hunter 6. Taking a look back, let's see some of our favorite memories, but Dungeon Hunter 6 is going to blow them away. This brand new, free-to-play mobile ARPG has amazing, fast-paced hack-and-slash combat style, which is given amazing depth with the build, skills, and hero collector feature. So don't wait, go download now using the link in the description below or the QR code in the top left corner to know that I sent you. That's going to get you some free goodies. But let's talk Dungeon Hunter 6. There are over 100 boss battles, and once you defeat a boss, you could then ride, fly, summon, or shapeshift into them for future use. You're not just going to be riding into bosses though, there's also customizable mounts that you can use to shock and awe both friend and foe alike. And don't forget the creative gameplay, like stealth missions, where it might benefit you to turn into a cat and get away undetected. Like every great game, you're going to need great teammates, so make sure you join the right guild, so you and your group can take on enemy guilds in the PvP Guild War feature. I'm super excited for this. Also, make sure you're customizing your skill tree to stand away from the rest of the crowd, but also adhere to your playstyle. And finally, rule the auction house. Benefit from all the trades and enter battle supercharged with your game. So download now using the link in the description below or that QR code so know that I sent you. That's going to get you a free starter pack valued at $50 with 10 summoning scrolls, an accessory kit, and a SSR Demonic Wolf. They're also having a lucky spin event where you can enter your in-game ID for great real-life prizes that starts on October 15th. You can find the details in the description below. And once again, thank you Dungeon Hunter 6 for sponsoring this video. Alright guys, so here we are. We're going to basically just rank the Dark Promotion characters as they currently are, just like we did before, and we're going to have animations flying on the side to try and illustrate what I'm talking about here. First, let's go through the rankings, okay? We got Apocalypse, number 1, Black Cat 2, Quicksilver 3, and you can't see him, but there's an invisible zombie Juggernaut at number 4. That's right. Zombie Juggernaut is coming in right before the Red Hulk, right here. And then we got Red Hulk, followed by Nova, Dorm, Morgan, Archangel, Rogue, Doom, Zim. Yes, we're looking at putting some red stars on Zim now with the Undying team coming out. Bigtime, this is super situational. We'll talk more about this as we get down the list. And then these two trash cans. Okay, so let's go back up to the top. And let's talk about Apocalypse for a second, because Apocalypse was just released. He's pretty expensive. I believe it's $3,500, $4,500, then $5,000 for his 5th, 6th, and 7th red star. We've been talking about this, and I do have Dead joining me on the call here. He can feel free to speak up for this video. He's got some countering opinions to me that might be interesting to people. I kind of like the idea of stopping at 6 red stars just because of how extravagant the costs get. But because of his use in Arena, War, and Crucible, and how it's all starting to lean towards the offensive end more and more to counter Super Skrull, to counter Secret Defenders and stuff like that, I do see some value in going all the way to 7 red stars, but like for me, I think about that. Do the math on that. 35, 45, that's 8,000, it's 13,000 Dark Promo credits from 4 to 7 red stars. Huge, but useful everywhere. Dead, you feel pretty strongly about 7 red stars, right? Why don't you speak on that a little bit?
I do, especially when you're in, like, trying to think about where to spend limited resources like Dark Promotion credits. I think it's important to take a look at how often you're going to use this and where he's going to see use. And Apocalypse gets seen in every single game mode, so you will use him, you know, literally as much as you possibly can. Every arena fight you do, he'll use every Crucible, you'll use him every war, you'll use him in the raids, right? Like everywhere, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. So I think he may not be the strongest on his own as like a candidate for the 7 red star because he's so expensive, but when you look at like the amortized cost per like fight that you use him in, he has a super high value.
That's fair enough. Yeah, my current plan for Apocalypse, he's definitely number 1. I've definitely stopped everything for him so far. I'm going to start bringing him to 6 red stars. I'm going to see what I feel like from there. I got to see how it's interacting with the scrolls. Is his one super punch, able to take out these scrolls if they're at like 80% life or whatever the case may be, and reassess from there, because that cost is expensive. But I hear what you're saying, because I can't count on my two hands the amount of times I've finished a War or a Crucible and been staring at Doom and Dorm still unused, and just like I didn't need to use them because I was using new Warriors, new Avengers, or I was using Masters of Evil, and then they don't really fit on those teams to make it more efficient in the clear, so they end up getting benched. That's never happened with Apocalypse yet. So I see that. All right, Black Cat. Now, she's not actually available yet, but I would say if you don't have her at 5 red stars, like, that is something to race to. I also see her damage being very, very good, but when she's on her team, she's definitely not the only damage dealer. Like, if you're talking about War Crucible and you have Photon and Robbie, they're doing arguably more damage than she is with their opening attacks. Like, she's kind of laying the groundwork with the bleeds to speed up Robbie, the stun with trauma and all that. But then Robbie comes in, he puts defense down on everybody, ability block, he removes their buffs, and then Photon comes in, and if she's a striker, this is why I like Robbie as a raider, by the way. If Photon's a striker, she can then feed off those vulnerables. She does percentile damage, bleeds, just tons of damage. So she's not like the solo carry on her team. She's not like Red Hulk or like Morgan. So I do see the value in getting her to 6 red stars when that's available, but definitely not like a, stop everything and do red stars like we're kind of doing for Apocalypse here. What do you think about a Black Cat? And she's not available right now, Dead, but what do you think about doing her in the future? And I think phrasing. Sorry about that. Phrasing.
I think she's a tricky one, right? Because as an arena character, you need her to be pretty strong. But she on defense is always going to lose on arena, and so you need to be strong enough that you need to pull a certain amount of investment from your opponents, but not too much, and then you need to be strong enough that you kill everybody in your arena shard. Outside of arena, she's like it's the same kind of thought process as Apocalypse. She's useful everywhere, but she's not as good as Apocalypse everywhere. So I think probably 5 or 6 is the right place for her. And if you're low, I think you could probably stop at 5 and then wait to see what she does and what your arena opponents do.
Yeah, I haven't ever felt like my Black Cat wasn't doing enough damage yet, but we'll see. Followed by that is Quicksilver. Now, Quicksilver, he lives or dies on his power, right? So if he's not higher red stars, his usefulness just drops off a cliff. I saw a remarkable difference bringing him from 5 to 6 stars. Now, unfortunately, he is not like the Horseman. His cost jumps exponentially once you're at 4 red stars. I think it's 3,000 to go to 5, and then 3,500 to go to 6, and then maybe 4,500 to go to 7. But when you find your niche place for Quicksilver, the red stars were wonders on him, and because he's that Crucible reward, a lot of people got good yellow stars on him. And I just want to make a note, I have him as a raider right now. That was just for the Nova Scourge event. I'd normally have him as a striker because that striker is brutal. Raider's not bad, but the striker is brutal. I really like having high red stars on him, and I think he's worth bringing up to 6 red stars. But that 7th red star is way more like, if I'm gauging between Black Cat 6 or Quicksilver 7th, I think I'm taking Quicksilver 7th. So although I think it's important to make sure your Black Cat is set up, I think higher red stars on Quicksilver will impact you more in multiple modes we're using him. What's your current use for Quicksilver, and where you find would be a sweet spot to stop for him?
I pretty much agree with everything you said there. I think that he's a tune that scales extremely well. I want to throw back to what I said a little bit about Black Cat, though. If your Black Cat needs to be stronger to do the things that you need to do in arena, she's more important than Quicksilver. But if your Black Cat is strong enough to kill your toughest arena opponents, and your arena opponents need to invest heavily to kill your Black Cat, Quicksilver's a much better investment. He's useful. He's better outside of arena in all of the same places you use her.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, we got a newcomer coming. I couldn't actually put him on this list because I don't have him unlocked yet. But we got Zombie Juggernaut. Now, I do think Zombie Juggernaut will benefit from red stars more than any of these characters. And I do think that his usefulness will be far extending just War once he is fully built. Like, I think people who buy Zombie Juggernaut at a big level, they're going to see huge usefulness out of him in Crucible. So my My thoughts on Zombie Juggernaut is whatever you get him to yellow stars, you should match that red stars. Because at 3 yellow, 3 red, he's a monster in war. But he's going to lack that survivability, those extra charges if you try and use him in Crucible or maybe in a Scourge or whatever the case may be. So those extra red stars go a long way. And once this team gets ramped up and he is getting charges from the Gregs killing themselves or from Zombie Iron Man getting yeeted out, he will start reviving like crazy. His damage ramps up from the charges. And we want to use this Undying team to beat enemy Skrulls. So it needs to be big. So my theory, my thought, is that he's probably going to be stuck at 5 red stars, like Zim was at start. And if you get him to 5 yellow, you should get him to 5 red. What are your thoughts on Zombie Juggernaut?
I think you take him to the moon.
Yeah.
I think, just like you said, right? You take him exactly to where you have his yellows. But I think it's important to remember, Zim and Hela, outside of war, are still a power couple.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And their stats are a year old.
Yep.
Adding a third to that team with as much synergy as they have is going to be nuts.
Oh yeah. Now he does lack speed outside war, but so does Zombie Iron Man and Hela, and they were still so influential in Crucible. So I wouldn't die on that while he's low speed hill in the other modes yet. So what?
Yeah,
Gear tier 18 for him as well?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Some of that is I'm also a big war guy, right? So
Yeah.
that team. The only reason I don't have Hela there is because Mystic Gear is as obnoxious as it is.
Yeah.
But I think that team to the moon, it's going to do everything in war, and given how strong the 2 of them are in Crucible, I think the 3 of them are going to be nuts.
Right.
And if you like the PvP modes, go hard, and if you don't, then they won't do anything for you.
True. Unless we see a villain section in the upcoming Scourge event where war tags are put on, in which case that's going to be your team, the Undying with the war tag. That's my theory for the next Scourge, by the way.
That could be a good one.
Yeah, because New Avengers, right? It's a war team. After Zombie Juggernaut, we kind of fall off a cliff a little bit here. So you're going to see, I have a lot of these characters that have 7 red stars. There's like a time window where some of these things are appropriate, and then you really do enjoy the benefit for a long time. But if you miss the boat, you miss the boat. So for Red Hulk, like, he's destroyed in Crucible. That's no longer a team that holds really well, right? Like new Warriors crush it, Masters of Evils crush it, Secret Defenders crush it, Tangled Web crushes it. I got to imagine the next Crucible team is going to also demolish it. There's Doom comps that beat it as well. So having the 7 red stars on Red Hulk was really good in War and Crucible. Still really good in War. The team is starting to flex over to the offensive side, but falling off in other modes and obviously not used in Arena anymore. I'm comfortable now suggesting, like, look, he's good, but unless all of your other characters up here are brought as high as they can be, I kind of think you stop Red Hulk at 5 red star, and he's still going to be great in War on the offensive side, but you're no longer hoping that the AI beats people, which is really why you wanted the 6th and 7th red star. What are your thoughts?
Agreed. I think and this is going to hold true for all of the Horsemen, if you don't already have them high, you shouldn't.
Yeah. The one reason I would edge Red Hulk above the other 3 who are way down here is because he's going to be the power couple with Apocalypse, right? Like when Apocalypse is no longer being slotted into teams like Secret Defenders or New Avengers or whatever he's being placed for War and Crucible, Red Hulk giving that speed to Apocalypse becomes kind of a power couple situation, and then you might revisit that, but unless everybody's done, I don't know. It's kind of a tough one.
I don't think that will happen. I think just like we saw Dormammu slot, and really the only reason we don't have him there is because of some of the anti-revive stuff, but just like we saw Dormammu slot into whatever the new hotness 4-piece was, I think you'll see the same thing with Apocalypse.
Yeah?
Right, yeah, he's gonna, because he stops the initial debuffs and he does all this stuff. Whatever 4-piece plus him generates a significant defense, he will be with for a long time. And because all the Dark Dimension characters are kit based, he will scale, for the next year or 2 doing that. I don't think he's not gonna phase out.
True, his Falcon Punch doing percentile damage is going to make him relevant basically forever, for as long as the game exists. And whatever new progression paths they put on him, like his stats already are kind of crazy. So I can see that. I just really like the speed bar that Red Hulk gives him. So I see a world where it's possible, but I get where you're coming from. If they're committed to not doing these super cookie cutter where you need all 5 characters to make it work, then Apocalypse starts looking really good on all these 4-piece teams.
I would say if/when that happens, do Red Hulk then. If there's a team that comes out where Red Hulk and him are a power couple, and then there's 3 other people, like it's very possible that you do the 2 of them with the Undying trio to kill whatever the next stupid offense they come up with. Right?
True.
But if that happens, do it then.
True. Good call.
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that proactively.
Yeah. All right, then we get down to Nova, and this is where it really starts becoming tough. So personally, I love Nova. Again, he's a Raider for Dark Dimension 6 right now. Normally, he's a Striker. Personally, I love Nova as a plug-and-play in Crucible. The turn 1 stun, the battlefield effect, once he gets offense up from a character like Weaver, incredible damage is served from this guy. So I have him at 5. I would love him at 6, but because it's just plug-and-play, and because this team kind of demolishes everything in War already, with the exception of Super Skrull teams and giant New Avenger teams, it's hard to justify putting more on him after that 5th Red Star, but I would probably put Nova 6th Red Star before Hulk 6th Red Star if I still had to do that. But also, I would have to have finished all these other 4 characters first. Remember, there is a invisible zombie Juggernaut right here. What are your thoughts on Nova? Like, what's your usage from him right now, and where do you see his power needing to scale in the future for War?
I think for War, that team is so weird because he is so much better than the rest of his team.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That, like, the weaknesses in the team is never him, right? The times when you lose, it's because Nova's trying to 5v1 something stupid, and like there's no amount of Red Stars is going to make that happen. So he's kind of a goofy one. I think you have him in the right spot here. I think I would not go past like 5 or 6 unless you've got a lot of extra DPCs.
Yeah. And that's something to talk about too. Like they're loosening up on Red Star orbs, which will lead to more Dark Promotion credits. But overnight, let alone over like a year, you're not going to all of a sudden have enough to DPC promote every single character to 7 Red Stars. I don't think the farming drop rates of that incursion campaign are anywhere near what people are hoping they would be. Okay, so Nova 5, 6 tops depending on what you're facing. Like for us, I think a 6 Red Star Nova starts becoming a mandatory once we start seeing like 2.2 million New Avengers. Before the everyday player, like 5 Red Stars is more than enough to handle, the mid-lane New Avengers and all that kind of teams.
Yep.
All right.
And that's just because ours is we deal with people that are investing as much as you can into the defense teams we have to kill.
Exactly. Now it's going to get sketchy. We might lose some people here, but I'm starting to see so little interest in investing these characters into like the bare minimum. Like Dormammu, he starts at 4 Red Stars. That 5th Red Star, I believe, does cost 3,500. I already kind of see that as the max where I want to go now, because I'm trying to gauge what I need to do for Apocalypse, what I'm going to need to do for Black Cat in the future, what I want to do for Quicksilver. So putting Red Star promotions onto Dormammu is harder and harder, but unlike Doom, he still has great damage. So let me ask you, where are you at with Dormammu? I know you, like me, have him at 7 Red Stars, but if you had to go back, where are you taking him to?
I think if I didn't already have him at 7, I would probably leave him at 4.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm
like,
at too.
Well, like kind of, I think, with the exception of the next 3 horsemen, from here on down, you just kind of leave him where you have him.
I think so too. It's really tough. We'll have to talk about Zim a little bit when how that team's gonna match, but I think 4 Red Stars seems like it's more than enough. He's gonna come in with that revive mechanic. Obviously, you got to be careful where you take him into, and he's got that stun. He's got good focus. There might be a world where he starts having to become a skirmisher to land that stun, which is not the end of the world, but it's really hard to justify it now unless you have, again, literally everybody ahead of him done to where you want them to stay. it's really tough to justify this whatsoever. And then we talk about these reports. We could talk about them together. So Morgan Le Fay, obviously not Arena anymore, fallen hard in War viability, even harder in Crucible viability. I don't suggest people take this character past 5 red stars if you haven't already. Like, it's just not worth it. She, like Nova, is kind of the biggest part of her team, but her and her team have been crept out mechanically by the kids. What are your thoughts on Morgan to start off?
I agree with you on her. I think the thing is the 5 red star on the Horseman is such a good value that it's hard to pass up. But the 6 and 7 get so expensive that unless they're really Rockstar in it, they're not worth doing, and none of them are Rockstar in it anymore.
Yeah. And that'll lead us to Archangel. So, look, we now have the 5 sections. We have 5 teams for the raids. That means a new raid is coming sometime soon. And one of the 3 older teams, or maybe multiple of the 3 older teams, will be phased out. We know Bifrost and Pegasus are safe. That leaves Deathseed, Rebirth, and Invaders. I tend to think Rebirth will be the first to go, but they've shown they're not afraid to butcher a team with room rules. There could be a room rule that basically states, hey, no speedbar manipulation in this room, and then Deathseed is done and Archangel has completely lost any and all value. So just like Morgan, he's kind of like a B tier War offense, defense, Crucible offense and defense team. Actually, in Crucible, he's kind of a C tier. Once that Bifrost room is gone, like, Deathseed is not a thing in Crucible. So, like, again, him to 5-star because it only costs 1,200. That makes sense. Anything past that is really hard. And honestly, if I had him at 4 red stars, I'm probably not going to spend the 1,200 on him until I have Apocalypse done. Same with Morgan and Rogue. What are your thoughts on Archangel? And do you think they're going to be one of the teams phased out?
I think that, well, so first off, I think he's better in War than you're giving him credit for.
Okay.
I think Deathseed finds ways, because there's always, like, a weakest War team that they can take on, right? I think they're in a weird spot in War where they're not good enough to kill anything good, but they're way overkill to kill everything that's just a little bit not good. Mm-hmm. So if it's not Young Avengers or Heroes for Hire, everything on that, like, second tier defense, they kill everything. So I think they have some good use there. I do think that we saw this with, like, Symbiotes and Axemen. That style of team, even independent of, like, the specific you can't use this team rules, which we can't predict, but that style of team ages poorly.
Right.
And so I think they are likely to get outmoded. I think Invaders, like, it's super weird because Invaders is so slow that they could easily struggle next tier, and Rebirth feels so bad that they could also struggle next tier. And so I don't know. It really depends, especially with, like, the room bonuses being as strong as they are for them right now. It's hard to see their, like, true power right now.
True.
And so I think that it is. I think they'll either be very strong in raids next tier or useless. Right? Like,
no middle ground. No middle ground.
I don't think so. Right?
I could see that. Yeah, I could see that. Now they do have the Apocalypse bump in that mutant section. We'll see how that helps them out. But you're right. Them getting all the bleeds, giving them all that energy right now is kind of making them, like, Super Saiyan level good. But they're about to be, like, Yamcha level good when that room rule is gone. So we'll have to see how that goes. There's my weeb references for you guys.
Right, we saw Krillin kick ass in the Frieza saga, but then he basically didn't do anything for the rest of the
True. Well, he did act as a steroid for Goku to go Super Saiyan. So that's got to count for something.
His most important job was to die.
Yeah, he did it well, though. He really sold it. Actor, Oscar level. Speaking of acting, like, Unlimited is a good Crucible team. Rogue is not worth going... Dude, I don't think I'd take Rogue to 5. If she's at 4, I think I leave her at 4. Until I'm swimming in dark promotion credits, like, the team is just not good. What do you think about Rogue? I really like
that team, but I agree with you.
Oh, I want to
like that team.
Yeah,
I want to like that team because I actually really like Gambit, and I really like the play between Gambit and Rogue, but the rest of the team leaves them behind.
Yeah,
or leaves them struggling because the two of them can't carry the whole team. So I actually think I agree with you. I think I take her to whatever you have her at. I don't even know if, like, I don't know if I would put any dark promotion credits in her.
It'd be tough, right? Like, hopefully you got
Scourges and then leave it alone.
Yeah, hopefully you didn't, like, crawl your way through the Scourges and have her at like 2 red stars for some reason. Hopefully you have her at least 4. Doom. So Doom he's a fickle one, right? Because he is mechanical, but he needs to survive at least 1 hit to get there. So we had this talk where you were arguing that, like, if you're trying to use him against a character like Red Hulk in War, he needs to be able to survive those hits. But then I was telling you, like, hey, my 6 red star Doom, he's not getting pushed to 50% when Super Skrull hits him, so he's not getting that energy in time. Then he takes a second hit from some other tertiary character, and then he's dead. So it's a weird balancing act between you want him big enough to survive so he can ult and make the more important character carry him, or you want him big enough to survive that, but you don't want him too big that he doesn't get pushed. So I think, and this sucks, in the current meta with the kind of characters you're taking him up against, I think unfortunately that middle ground is like that 5th red star, where he will survive a Red Hulk if he has defense up, and he'll get pushed from a Super Skrull. Because I can tell you right now, this Doom at 6 red star, he goes to like 53% life. And then the rest of the Secret Defenders come in and kill him before he ults, and I get that Crucible win. What are your thoughts on Doom, and do you foresee him just leaving the meta ever, or will he always be mechanically viable with that ultimate?
I think he will. I don't want to say always, but I think he'll be useful for a lot, because it's a turn-based game, right?
Yeah.
And we talk about how speed bar is always king, and speed is such an important stat. And he takes your most important character and gives them 3 full turns, or sometimes 6 full turns, right?
Yeah, exactly. With
And
Kang and Quicksilver.
Right. So I think he will usually have a place, right? But you can already see he doesn't really exist, right? He's a vulnerable and turn machine. Yeah. That's where he is right now already. And so the minute that he can't reliably survive things,
he's done.
To be able to do that. And you can see that already sometimes where you pair Dormammu with him to get him to automatically trigger it, right?
Yeah.
And so basically, as soon as you're right. As soon as he can't survive things, he's automatically done. So I think you need to take him as high as you need to survive the things that you need him to survive, and no more, because he's already not doing anything that matters with his like actual stats.
Yeah. So yeah, unfortunately, it's hard for us to give you like a star recommendation to bring him up to. It's going to be based on your kind of competition. You need him to get pushed, hopefully on the first turn, and not one shot. So you're going to need to figure out where that balance is. And of course, when you're going up against, he's an offensive character. Let's get that out of the way. If you put him on defense, he's so easy to control at this point, or to one shot. So when you take him into defense, you got to understand the limits of your Doom and how to manipulate that passive of his. All right. Now it gets tricky. Okay, Zombie Ironman. He can 100% function at 0 red stars. Unlike Zombie Juggernaut, he does not need to survive as long as hell's alive. He keeps coming back. His passive is his shiniest part of his kit. He uses the enemy's power against him. I would argue he can do good damage in his own right, but again, unless you're swimming in DPCs, you have all these characters done, his passive is kind of, it's enough. It's enough for that team to just be amazing, right? So I kind of don't suggest using Dark Potion credits on him at all, which is something that you had also brought up. But they're nice? Question mark. What do you think?
I think he is. So he's tricky because we had this before. We had this talk before. He's a kit-based character. He hits like a truck, but he is also purely like a kit-based character. And so having more red stars on him is obviously better, but he really doesn't need them.
Yeah.
But I think I would classify him as anytime you feel like you have an excess of DPCs, you should dump them into Sim.
That's fair.
Right. And so if you're ever sitting there and you're like, oh, it's been a lull and I got, 3,000 or 4,000 of them, dump them into him. Right.
Yeah.
Or if and just any time where you're like, I don't really know what to do, dump him into Sim. You're not going to be sad at that investment. Because he does hit like a truck and he does more things. But like, I don't know if you ever want to prioritize him because he does everything he needs to do at 0.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where I'm at too. And to ever have an excess of Dark Promotion credits, like that's a strange place to be in. Let's be real about that. All right, let's move on. We're dragging ass now, and we're about to finish real quick with these three. Okay, Spider-Man Big Time. Having him at 5 red stars has changed absolutely nothing. The Tangled Web Kang or Tangled Web Quicksilver team just demolishes the Infestation team. He's great as a plug-and-play character in Arena and Crucible. You know, he's taken the first buffs off people, but he doesn't need any sort of red stars to do that. I brought him into Dark Dimension 6. He does 0 damage there. He's still just a kit-based character. I don't ever see them giving him a different team. Like, he's already the centerpiece of the Infestation team. We're about to see what happens when people have 7 red stars on him, but based on our counter and the amount of damage he's doing now as a raider in security, it being like 20% of some of the oldest characters' health, I don't think any amount of red stars makes Spider-Man Big Time or that Infestation team pop in war, and I don't think red stars affect him as a plug-and-play character at all. What are your thoughts on Big Time?
Yep.
Perfect. Ultron. If you didn't get the red stars from the event, don't put red stars on him. Find a way to get more shards and more red stars on Kang. Fair?
Yep.
Pretend this guy doesn't exist. He's garbage.
Well, no. I mean, I like him in some Crucible match. Oh, you're talking about Ultimus. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I'm talking about pretend Ultimus doesn't exist. Yeah, Ultron. He can be good, but as far as red stars go, man, it's the Kang show on that team, and to put anything on Ultron, because he is actually one of the expensive characters, ahead of any of, like, the top 6 characters here, that's rough. It's rough.
A Kang show, but you can't sleep on Moonstone.
True. Moose and Titania. Titania smacks, too.
Yeah.
All right, guys, well, this was a 30-minute video. Thank you so much for hanging all the way till the end. I hope you found it informative. So that's the priority list. That's where we would take them and stop. If I were to give, like, blanket advice, though, it would be bring all the characters you use on the daily to, like, the cheapest stopping point first. So if we had all our horsemen at 3 red stars, including, like, Black Cat, Nova, I'm going to bring them up to 5. I'd bring Quicksilver up to 4. And then I would start looking at putting the bigger stars on people. That's if you're, like, a super newer player. Just so you have a wider roster. But that Apocalypse, hoo-wee, he's going to change things, isn't he?
Yeah, I like he trucks and will for a long time.
Percentage damage, can't beat it. All right, guys, this is for me and Dead. Thank you so much for hanging out, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Goodbye, Internet.
That's it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Stay happy, healthy, have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.